Hi, and welcome back to 30 Days of Going Inside because we can't go outside. Yesterday was day 24, and we explored structure and routine and how important they are for our brain and for our mental well-being. And today, on day 25, we're going to have a look at tone. But you'll be delighted to hear that that's not going to be me doing a series of abs exercises out in the garden to try and get you to physically tone. Today we're going to be looking at the concept of vagal tone, and we're going to explore ways in which we can increase our own during this period of self-isolation. Our vagus nerve is actually often an untapped resource within us, and whilst we know what its responsibilities are, we're only really beginning to learn how important it is for us and our emotional regulation. So there are actually two of them, and they start just behind our ears, and then they wander down through our necks, and they weave throughout all of the major organs in our body, with the exception of the thyroid and the adrenals. But all the other ones, the vagus nerve is actually connected to. And the reason it's called vagus is because that's Latin for vagabond or for wandering, as it weaves its way throughout the major organs. And actually, its responsibilities are really around helping to adjust our breathing based on our heart rate. It's also responsible for our digestion and for our circulation and for our muscle health. So when we stimulate the vagus nerve, the longest nerve in the human body, our heart rate goes down. And it goes down because the vagus nerve secretes acetylcholine. And acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter, a chemical that helps us calm down and overrides our fear conditioning. So it might be important for us to learn this at a time when fear and anxiety are often normal bedfellows at a time of such uncertainty. So low vagal tone is actually when we can see sometimes poor emotional regulation. It's often associated with inflammation and with low mood. A healthy vagal tone means that we can emotionally regulate and we have a little bit more emotional balance. But we can actually do some things, not only to increase our vagal tone, but also to increase our own levels of acetylcholine, which is pretty exciting because that's our calming chemical. And it's the one that can actually help us access that soothing system, which is that really important emotional state that we don't often visit as frequently as would be good for us. So if you've experienced anxiety for longer periods of time than you would like, if you're living with some pain, experience brain fog, which is something that, as you can probably see, I experience most days on these videos, or low mood, then vagal tone and vagus nerve stimulation may well be something that you're really interested in. And also food sensitivities and poor digestion too. Those are also related to poor vagal tone often. And that's because of that relationship between the gut and the brain. And the vagus nerve acts a little bit like a walkie-talkie, communicating between the two. You know that expression about gut brain. I still think that, our guts is kind of like that the first brain, the first port of call. If it feels good, it normally is good. But also there's some interesting research around the importance of vagal tone for sleepiness, for that feeling of being a bit sleepy before you go to bed. And also around the production of serotonin, which we need for sleepiness. And we think that about 90% of our serotonin is actually produced in the gut. So we need our vagus nerve to effectively transport that serotonin to our brains to help us feel a little bit sleepy. So improving your vagal tone, we know, can have an impact on that feeling of sleepiness, but also the quality, the restorative quality of our REM sleep. So it won't surprise you to know that this is all going to do a little bit with the breath again. Because when we breathe in, our heart rate increases a little bit. And when we breathe out, our heart rate goes down a little bit. So good vagal tone or high vagal tone is associated with high heart rate variability. Yeah? The difference between our inhalation heartbeat and our exhalation heartbeat. So if we're trying to sort of increase that, then that's going to be where we want to put our energies into adjusting our breathing. And that's really key. And obviously breath is really key in Tai Chi and in yoga. But even a short exercise every day where you're adjusting your breathing for a couple of minutes can really stimulate your vagus nerve and improve your vagal tone. And what we're trying to do there, first and foremost, is to make the out breath longer than the in breath. And what we're also trying to do is when we do breathe out, I want you to imagine that you're blowing bubbles in your Coca-Cola, or you're making an effort to actually purse your lips as though you were actually blowing bubbles full stop. Okay, you don't blow a bubble by going, you blow a bubble by pursing your lips and the slow exhalation of breath. So a really lovely exercise is to breathe in for a count of 6, to hold the breath at the top for a count of 4, and to exhale for a count of 8. And just repeating that 4, 5, 6 times a day can give your vagus nerve such a wonderful boost. So in for a count of 6, hold the breath at the top for a count of 4, and exhale through pursed lips for a count of 8. You may experience a little bit of lightheadedness the first time you do that. So that's really important. Increase that heart rate variability, increase your vagal tone. But also what we want to do is we want to touch that diaphragm too. So we know that kind of when we tickle that diaphragm, we do wonders for our vagal tone and get our heart rate to go down. So kind of when we're feeling really stressed, we shallow breathe, we chest breathe. And what we're trying to do is to get our breath all the way down to our tummies. And I'm going to put some really lovely belly breathing exercises at the end of this video for those of you that want to explore kind of pushing your breath all the way down, touching all of those organs, activating your vagus nerve through tickling your diaphragm a little bit. And kind of there's some lovely exercises just around putting your hand on your belly or putting a small toy, for example, on a child's chest and getting them to lie down and to move that toy on their belly and keep the one on their chest as still as possible. I'll share those resources with you. So belly breathing is really key too. And then we revisit our old favourite, meditation. Meditation is a wonderful way of moving through anxiety. It calms our breathing down and it really stimulates our vagus nerve. And in some respects, we know from research that actually loving kindness meditations in particular do wonders for heart rate variability. So I will be sharing some loving kindness meditations with you at the end of this session. Another way, and it won't surprise you because again it's activating this part, remember the vagus nerves both start behind our ears, and that is when we hum and when we sing. And that's actually where this concept of the Om breath comes when we often do our yoga practices. So humming and singing are both excellent ways of stimulating the vagus nerve. And so is laughing. And at the end of this, I'm going to include a video of a laughing yoga session. You know, children laugh 30 times more than adults do. We don't laugh enough. And we know that even even a fake laugh is actually good for our brains and good for our systems. Massage is another way, whether that's self-massage or whether or not it's actually getting somebody to massage your feet or massage your shoulders. That's another lovely way to stimulate vagus nerve activity. And actually, the final one I'm going to end on is when we experience cold, splashing cold water onto our face, having a burst of a cold shower before it goes hot, jumping into a cold river, maybe not that one at the moment. Those are ways of increasing or improving your vagal tone, stimulating your vagus nerve so that it can help lower your heart rate and boost you with acetylcholine, which will help override that fear conditioning response that we have in our body and hopefully help you relate to anxiety in a slightly different way. So my challenge for you is to try one or two of those today, whether it's humming, self-massage, splashing cold water onto your face, or saying Om before or at the end of your yoga practice. Really look forward to seeing you tomorrow on day 26, and take care.